I'm Wiseman Nkuhlu, the chairman of KPMG South Africa. I'm also Chancellor of the University of Pretoria. My professional life has been in education, development, and also the accounting and auditing profession. So it's really a pleasure today to be speaking at the Top Empowerment Virtual Conference on higher education. The title of my talk is "What does transformation of higher education system look like in South Africa post-COVID-19?" And I have divided into three sections. First section, just introduction and background. Second section is talking about addressing the impact of COVID-19 on teaching and learning. And then the third part, I will deal with the impact of COVID-19 on research at the universities. And then I will conclude. Thank you very much for the invitation. COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on South Africa's already dysfunctional economy. Before COVID-19, the country was already in a technical recession, troubled by increasing national debt and annual budgetary deficits, on top of the perennial escalating poverty, unemployment, and inequality. Now with COVID-19, we are faced not only with an unprecedented deep crisis, but above all with a crisis that requires urgent and decisive action. We can no longer afford to dilly-dally and engage in endless consultations. Therefore, for me, it is particularly pleasing to note that in response to COVID-19, we have managed to forge partnerships quickly beyond the government, business, labor, universities, and other community organizations. This solidarity is unprecedented and has demonstrated the power we have when we mobilize ourselves around a shared objective, this time a threat. Business for South Africa comments as follows on the collaborative arrangements that have been developed. COVID-19 crisis and the partnerships created to respond to it provide an opportunity to rethink South Africa's future, an opportunity for South Africa to reimagine a future working together. It is in the context of this partnership that now I focus on higher education sector, how it has been impacted by COVID-19 and how it is responding and reimaging itself. Like other sectors of society, the initial reaction was one of shock and fear. The news of the exponential spread of the disease and escalation of deaths in China, Italy, and other countries caused panic. However, given the missions of universities, what distinguished them from the outset was their focus on gathering information about the disease and conducting analysis on its nature and origins. Also, liaising with the government and other knowledge institutions, both locally and internationally. As Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, I stayed in touch with developments from the beginning. The Vice Chancellor, Professor Cooper, updated me at regular intervals. Under the leadership of the Vice Chancellor, the University of Pretoria mobilized its expertise across disciplines and established governance and management structures tailored specifically to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Internally, the biggest challenge was ensuring the safety of both students and staff, and also planning and implementing well thought out actions to minimize disruption to teaching and learning. Universities had to close and students had to return to their homes. Staff also had to work from their homes. At the beginning, we all hoped that will be for a short time, but it soon became evident that the disruption was going to be for a very long time. This necessitated creative thinking and designing, as well as execution of plans to reach out to the students to ensure that teaching and learning continues. The University of Pretoria was able to resume its academic programs online from the beginning of May 2020. The university was able to achieve this because it had moved to a hybrid model of teaching much earlier in 2015. In this blended model, teaching and learning is delivered through a combination of information technology-enabled distance learning and conduct classes. Unfortunately, not all universities were ready. Therefore, the big challenge for most of the sector was to respond quickly without compromising the quality of teaching and leaving some students behind. Like all South African universities, the University of Pretoria has a large proportion of students coming from the less developed regions of our country, small towns, townships, and rural areas with limited access or no access to the internet. In addition, some students do not have computers, laptops, or cell phones with the necessary capabilities. As a consequence, universities had to take steps to ensure that these students are not further disadvantaged by their circumstances. Therefore, they had to address a two-pronged challenge. On the one hand, they had to adapt their teaching materials to remote learning and also, of course, deal with the issue of students not having computers. So, secondly, they had to make sure that no student is left behind. The second challenge proved to be more difficult as it required huge investments to provide all students with the requisite devices as well as data bundles. Much as these challenges are formidable, my assessment is that the university education system is responding creatively and with a sense of agency and impressive progress. Many of us have been reading about the capabilities of the new technologies to revolutionize education, but we have been slow to act. Possibly we needed a crisis like COVID-19 to wake us up. In my view, the blended model to teaching and learning is here to stay. The enhanced use of information and technology that we see during the COVID-19 crisis will escalate in the years ahead. In other words, post-COVID-19, education will be transformed for the better. Effective use of information technology will ensure consistency in quality, as well as increased access to knowledge and solutions that we need in order to improve livelihoods and reduce unemployment and poverty. Now, a few remarks on research. In this regard, I wish to refer to the experiences of the University of Pretoria. The Vice Chancellor has been very effective in encouraging and supporting academics to work with government and also dedicate themselves to formulating solutions that are of relevance to the whole country. This has led to increased transdisciplinary research and collaboration on themes that are pertinent to the fight against the pandemic. What is also noticeable is increased involvement of university researchers, not only in analyzing and critiquing policies, but also in decision-making as well as formulation of solutions and taking responsibility for implementation. Linked to this is the increased appreciation of science as a foundation for decision-making by ordinary South Africans. It is heartwarming to see and hear ordinary citizens expressing their trust in scientists more than in their political leaders. This experience has strengthened people's reliance on science for resolving problems that really matter to them. Hopefully, also enhance appreciation of the contribution and relevance of higher education. It is now incumbent on universities to build on these positive developments by deepening the connectivity and relevance between what they do and the challenge we face as a country. In this respect, our flagship at the University of Pretoria is the Future Institute and Campus. This is a transdisciplinary research and collaboration platform for local and global researchers. Its primary focus is to promote collaborative scholarship and research in Africa. COVID-19 has impacted virtually all African countries, and the Africa Future Institute is well designed to promote research and collaboration among experts across the continent. I'm pleased that it is already playing this role. Now, a few words in conclusion. The COVID-19 is a great catastrophe, and that is considerable suffering and loss of life. It is going to leave on its trail high levels of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. In our case, that is in our case in South Africa, it could not have come at a worse time. In terms of the demographic transition trends, by now and for the next 20 or 25 years, South Africa should be experiencing a window of high economic growth and expanding prosperity arising from the so-called demographic dividend. History in other countries shows that a demographic dividend opens when the working age group, that is between 15 years and 64 years, of a country is larger than the dependent population. Currently, South Africa is in this window with about 63% of the population in the working age category. However, we have already lost 10 years as a consequence of state capture and corruption. And COVID-19 is to set us back possibly another 3 years. This is really going to be a great challenge for us as South Africa, because if we are really going to make a breakthrough in developing our economy to a status much higher, closer to those of developed countries, our best time is between now and the next 20 years, when we have this demographic dividend. So this is a double challenge now, that we make sure that we recover quickly from COVID-2, and we use the lessons learned to reinvent our education, especially higher education, as well as cooperation between universities and government in solving the bigger problems. I think we must make good use of the crisis, that the crisis has managed to bring us together. Now we have used the capacity of these institutions, including universities, to actually deal with COVID-19. And now we should be able, on the basis of those partnerships, to map a better future for all of us, working together, taking full advantage of the capacity of universities. In terms of what has happened to teaching and learning, I have no doubt in my mind that with increased use of information technology-driven education, we can accommodate more students on the existing infrastructure. The challenge is going to be equipping our higher education institutions correctly and making sure that our teachers are well equipped. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope my short remarks will generate interest, and I look forward to an interesting discussion. Thank you.